Hi. So, when I was at school, about 100 years ago, I did this cartoon character called Wilf and decided to make it for real. I usually use a 4mm wire for this, but I've got quite a lot of this thin stuff that I don't often use, so I decided to twist them together and make something decent. Now, the best way to do this is to put it in a vise and use an electric drill to twist them together, but I was too lazy, so I did it the hard way. I do go back and re-drill these holes eventually, but for now, again, using the correct tools. I could have just used an electric driver, but I tried to use this that wasn't really there for the job. He's a bit of a chunky boy, he's Wilf, so it needed a bit of padding with some foil. And I thought I'd try some of this Sculpey Ultralight just to put a base layer on. And it is quite different from the regular Super Sculpey, being quite lightweight and almost like sculpting with marshmallow. He's supposed to be a medieval servant to Sir Prancelot, one of the knights of the realm, and so his outfit's pretty basic. It's just a tunic, some kind of trousers and shoes. So trying to add as much detail as I can without it being too fancy, because that wouldn't be true to the character. And here I am using my new tool, a little pokey thing that's good for poking holes and for creating lines and textures and getting into tight spaces. Giving it a kind of puckered moccasin sort of look to his shoes, probably not historically accurate. I didn't press the button. So if you want to see how I made this bit, there is another video which I'll put a link up in the top corner about now. And I decided that his shoulders were looking a little bit too bulky. Thankfully, it was a very cartoony look to this character, so nice and chunky. Not masses of detail, but little bits where I can add here and there. Here's sticking the hand on in the wrong place, so I do it again. Oops. And finishing it off with a cuff. For his belt, it was just going to be a piece of rope, so I made two long sausages and very carefully twisted them together to give the effects of rope. And this was me trying to add a bit of texture to his tunic, which was pretty much a waste of time. I needed something with a little bit more texture to it that I could press into the clay. But pleased with the rope. I'm using Cosclay for this one because I was a bit concerned that I might damage this at some point with it sticking out. So it keeps it slightly flexible. And his sword, because he's just a servant, he doesn't get to have a proper sword, so he's just got a wooden one. Adding some seams into the tunic and kind of stitching, I suppose you could call it, and a few scratches and scrapes to the fabric, and then give it a brush down with some isopropyl alcohol to get rid of any of the slight imperfections that I may have caused. The head was quite easy because as you can see, there's not a lot of recognisable detail on there. It's just a nose with a big hat. But you can see his quite prominent chin and his solemn expression. I have no idea where the design for this hat came from. You know, I was about 13 years old at the time, so I don't know where I'd seen it or if it's a real hat at all. Yeah, but I decided that his head was standing a bit too high on, so he's a bit of choppy. And after adding some extra fabric around the neck area, a kind of hood, a medieval hood, his head goes back on again. Not too bad. a few extra folds on that hood just to fill in the blanks and make it a whole lot easier when it comes to painting, rather than a silly little gap. That'd be really hard to do. So a bit more hood and a bit more hat. This is my attempt to put a bit of texture onto the hat by dabbing on some Super Sculpey adhesive and then dabbing it with the brush to give it some texture, but all it did was end up smooth, so didn't really achieve anything. Possibly less of the liquid would be more useful. Colour palette for this was pretty much brown. And falling over again. Quite surprised that nothing got damaged during the making of this. The amount of times you fell off that stand. This is me adding a coloured wash on top, so it's regular acrylic paint mixed with a bit of water that gets dabbed off and then goes into all those nooks and crannies that I've created with the texture. But it was too watery, so I did it again, and it left his 5 o'clock shadow, which is what I was aiming for. Same sort of thing with all the other parts of his clothes. Slightly darker colour to the base colour, wash it on, dab it off. And then a dry brush of a lighter colour to bring out the highlights. Possibly my favourite bit when I don't make a mess of it. Really good on wood grain and stonework, that kind of effect. So you just saw me painting the base and then deciding it was too boring, so I covered it in clay. And lost the holes, so I just needed to use my poker to find those holes again. Wasn't very easy. Just poke it a few million times more and eventually found it. Get my rock collection out to smash into this clay and give it a rocky texture. So some little bits of gravel from the back of my house and some sand out of the shed. Same as the clothes, dark wash followed by a lighter dry brushing, and then detailing some of the stones. Sticking back on, add his wooden sword, and he's done. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Not quite as much waffling as usual, but let me know if you think I should add some of the other characters, if I can remember what they all look like. And thanks for watching.